You lied to me. I trusted you, and you left me out in the cold. Hey guys, Chris with Valawa Hikes. If you're new here, this is a channel for beginner backpackers. And today I want to talk about temperature ratings of sleeping bags, because not fully understanding that can lead to really bad outcomes, which happened to me. And I felt very disappointed by a company that I trusted. And partially that's my fault, and partially it's how things are marketed. So let's talk a little bit about that today. So a little bit of backstory. Several years ago, I was on Mount Hood attempting to summit, and at base camp, we slept in a tent on the snow. I had a climate static fee sleeping pad. It's the kind of thing you can get at Walmart. And I had a 20-degree bag, and I shivered all night long. And it was miserable. I barely slept at all. So after that trip, I considered getting a warmer sleeping bag, and I did a little research into sleeping pads because I felt the snow all night long from underneath me. But today we're going to focus on the bags themselves. So after that trip, I wanted to invest in something that would keep me warmer. And several years later, I knew I was going to attempt to summit Mount Shasta. And knowing that I would have a similar experience up there with the same gear, I looked into a warmer sleeping bag. So I went and researched, and I found a very reasonably priced bag that was made by a company that I loved, which is Hyke and Byke. I was using their tent at the time, the Yosemite 2-person tent. I love that tent. It's been great price. And seeing that they made sleeping bags, I went ahead and bought the Snowmass 0-degree down sleeping bag. 0-degree bag, you figure it's good to 0 degrees, right? So it's a little more complicated than that. So I took the same bag to Yosemite a month before doing Mount Shasta to test it out. Was hiking through the snow and camping that night. I had the same pad, but this warmer bag, and I was cold. And it did get to below freezing, probably around 30 degrees. And I slept very, very cold. And the next night, same outcome. So I had brought my 20-degree bag as well. So on the next hike, overnighter, I took the 20-degree bag instead. I was very disappointed with the performance of the 0-degree bag. And it got down below freezing. I woke up with frost all over the tent. The only difference was I used the 20-degree bag I had from a different manufacturer, and I slept fine. I slept warm, which was confusing to me. So I thought maybe I got a dud, maybe they're liars, I don't know. I know I had loved their tent, and I thought their sleeping bags would be quality as well. But that didn't work out so well for me. So knowing I was going to go and summit Mount Shasta the following month, I went to my local gear shop, and I focused on the sleeping pads. So I still had the climate pad, which doesn't have a high R value. We'll talk about R value in sleeping pads in another video, but basically the higher the value, the warmer the pad is going to be. So I bought an accordion style pad from Nemo and a sleeping bag liner. And so on the next trip, I used my regular pad plus the accordion pad, plus an emergency blanket to help reflect heat, and the sleeping bag liner. And it was very, very cold up there. So cold that I couldn't even get my helmet off because my fingers were so cold later in the morning, but I slept fine. I was not cold. The only cold part of me was my face, and that was with my 20-degree bag, which is made by Kelty. It's the Cosmic 20. I've had that bag for a long time. I love it. And it performs great, better than this 0-degree bag, which baffled me. So flash forward to this year, I bought a Nemo Tensor sleeping pad to help with that cold. I went up to Mount Hood in May. There were whiteout conditions, so I ended up doing an alternate hike, but I was in the snow. It was around 30 degrees, and I had the 0 degree bag, the Nemo Tensor, and the accordion style pad and an emergency blanket, knowing that would keep me warm. And I froze all night long in the Hyke and Byke Snowmass 0 degree down sleeping bag. So going to Mount Adams the next month, I took the same setup, except I took my 20 degree bag because it had performed for me. And it was 27 degrees overnight, and the only cold part of me was my face. I slept great in that bag. So what gives? Well, all temperature ratings are not created equally. Different companies manufacture their sleeping bags, and they'll test them out and they'll give them a rating. And that can be kind of arbitrary. So what I discovered in researching further is that there is a standard for comfort ratings that manufacturers can use, and this is called the ISO rating. ISO stands for the International Standards Organization, and they've come up with a standard for testing sleeping bags. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but it involves mannequins and sensors. And this came about because there just was no standard. People could basically say their bag is whatever they say it is. Since 2017, reputable companies are using that testing process and that standard to rate their bags. And Kelty, who makes the Cosmic 20 that I own, uses that standard. Hyke and Byke does not list on their website that they use that standard. So I compared. I looked, and yeah, Hyke and Byke doesn't. Climate has bags. They're just rated, no standard. Kelty uses that. Most of the high-end bags are going to use that. So it's apples to apples. So looking on the websites, let's take a look and compare my 20 degree bag with my 0 degree bag. So looking at my Cosmic 20, if we scroll down here, we're going to see that this is ISO rated. There are two different ratings. One is a comfort rating and one is a lower limit rating. The comfort rating is basically what a cold sleeper is going to be comfortable at. And the lower limit is a warm sleeper's comfort rating. So basically the difference is, are you a warm sleeper or a cold sleeper? You can basically tell by the idea that if you and your spouse went camping and you both had the same sleeping bags, same pads, and you slept warm and they slept cold, warm sleeper versus cold sleeper. So there's those two ratings. And as we can see here, my 20 degree bag has a comfort rating of 31 degrees and a lower limit of 21 degrees. And I found that was absolutely the case, that I was warm at those temperatures in that bag. Now I go to the Hyke and Byke site, and they do not use an ISO rating. What they have is three different ratings here: a comfort temperature, a comfort limit, and a survival limit. So their 0 degree bag is rated 0 degrees survival limit, which means that's as cold as it can get and you can still be alive. That seems a little misleading. And so it's a good lesson in doing your research. Now, I would still like to have a 0 degree down sleeping bag that's actually going to perform well in cold temperatures. Well, talking apples to apples, I know that Kelty uses that standard. So one of their bags compared to another one of those bags should be pretty accurate. So looking at the same bag, the Kelty Cosmic, but the 0 degree bag, I see that that bag has a comfort rating of 17 degrees. So cold sleeper is going to be fine at 17 degrees. Lower limit, 4 degrees. This is Fahrenheit. This is a huge difference. We've got two different brands making a 0-degree bag, and one has a comfort rating of 30 degrees while the other one has a comfort rating of 17 degrees. So maybe that's my fault for not reading the fine print and doing a little more research. I will say that even having said that, comparing the 0-degree Hyke and Byke bag to the 20-degree Kelty Cosmic bag, my Kelty is warmer, even though the stats on the websites say that it shouldn't be as warm as the Hyke and Byke bag. And that's because they're not using the same standards. Something that surprised me is when I got this Hyke and Byke bag, it was huge, full of loft. It is, here, it's a giant, puffy bag. And it looks like it should be just like a sauna. And yet I felt like a frozen burrito in that thing. My 20-degree bag doesn't seem to be as lofty. And the fill in this, it's not supposed to be as warm as the other bag. So who knows? But maybe I just got a dud. I definitely have lost any opportunity to get sponsored by Hyke and Byke, which, you know, I do love their tents. They're fairly inexpensive, easy to set up, they're roomy, they're waterproof, they're great. But I was really disappointed with this bag, and I don't want to take another chance on one of their bags. And so I'm definitely going to go with the Kelty 0-degree bag. I also picked up another 0-degree bag. It was a synthetic bag. It was on an amazing sale. It's made by Climate. And looking into their website, there's no standard on that. It's just rated 0 degrees. So, but the reviews are great. So that's another thing I want to say is when you're looking at these bags online, look at the reviews. Because across the board, the reviews have been great for the bags that I like. And, you know, looking at it afterwards, yeah, not so much for these great deals. So pay attention to ratings if you're looking for a warm bag, especially a down sleeping bag. And hopefully you'll learn from my mistakes. So that's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching. If this kind of stuff is helpful to you, consider subscribing. But either way, I'm glad you're here. And I'll see you next time.